I always thought love was built on trust, that when you find the one, you don't question their intentions, their promises, or their love. I thought I had that with Nathan Kingston. For 3 years, he had been my world. The kind of man who made people turn their heads when he walked into a room, confident, charming, successful. The kind of man I thought I was lucky to have. To everyone else, Nathan was the dream fiance. He ran a chain of luxury restaurants, had an effortless charm that could win over any crowd, and carried himself with the kind of confidence that made you believe he had everything under control. But to me, he was more than that. He was the man who had whispered sweet nothings in my ear at midnight. The one who had promised me forever when he slipped that diamond ring onto my finger. The one who had made me believe that love, real love, was safe. And then, in a single moment, he shattered everything. It started with a romantic weekend away. Nathan had surprised me with a trip to a beautiful cabin in the mountains, a getaway before the wedding, he said. Just the two of us. I had been so excited. In my mind, this was supposed to be our time, the last peaceful moment before we became husband and wife. But I should have known something was off. Nathan had been distant the past few weeks. At first, it was little things, skipping out on cake tastings, brushing off conversations about honeymoon destinations. Then it got worse. Missed phone calls. A strange hesitation when I talked about our future. I told myself it was just stress, that I was overthinking things. But as I sat across from him at the candlelit dinner that first night, I felt it again. That strange, unshakable feeling. Something was wrong. He reached into his bag and pulled out a crisp stack of papers, sliding them across the table with a casual smile. "There's just one little thing we need to take care of before the wedding," he said. I frowned. "What's this?" He leaned back, sipping his wine, his expression unreadable. "A prenup." A prenup. My fingers twitched as I picked up the papers, my pulse suddenly too loud in my ears. I wasn't against the idea. I understood why people did it. But the way he said it, so casual, so indifferent, it made my stomach tighten. "I didn't know you wanted one," I said slowly. He shrugged. "It's just smart. You know, protecting ourselves." Protecting ourselves. Why did that sting? I forced a smile, swallowing the knot in my throat as I flipped through the pages. At first, everything seemed standard, until I looked closer. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just a prenup. It was a trap. The terms were brutal. If we divorced, I got nothing. Not even the apartment we lived in. Any money we shared? Gone. Investments? His. But the worst part? The final clause. If the marriage didn't happen, I would owe his family tens of thousands of dollars for expenses related to the engagement. What? I looked up at him, my hands shaking. Did you write this?" Nathan chuckled, swirling his wine. "My dad's lawyer helped." His dad's lawyer. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I had met his father before, Charles Kingston, a ruthless businessman who never liked me. He had once told Nathan, right in front of me, that marriage should be a contract first, love second. And now, here I was, holding his contract. I forced a laugh, hoping he didn't hear the tremble in my voice. This is a joke, right?" Nathan's smile didn't waver. "Babe, it's just business. Just business." I stared at him, searching for something, anything in his expression that told me this was a misunderstanding. But his eyes? Cold, detached, like he had already won. I suddenly felt sick. The warmth of the candlelight, the beauty of the cabin, all of it felt like a cruel trick. I was nothing more than an investment, and for the first time in 3 years, I realized Nathan wasn't planning on marrying me. He was planning to ruin me. I had to get out. But first, I needed to find out just how deep this betrayal went. I sat there, frozen. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the wooden cabin walls, but all I could see were the words on the crisp white pages in front of me, words that felt like a noose tightening around my neck. If the marriage didn't happen, I would owe his family tens of thousands of dollars. My fingers curled around the document, my grip tightening as a nauseating wave of realization washed over me. This wasn't just about a prenup. This was something far, far worse. I forced myself to breathe, though every inhale felt like swallowing glass. Nathan sat across from me, calm, composed, completely unbothered. His wine glass dangled lazily from his fingers, the deep red liquid swirling inside, untouched by the tension sitting between us. I wanted to say something. I wanted to demand an explanation, to ask him why. Why was he doing this? Why was there a clause in this contract that made it seem like I was an investment rather than a woman he loved? But my throat felt dry, my voice trapped behind the rising panic in my chest. My mind raced back to the beginning, the moment we met, the first time he kissed me, the first "I love you." Had it all been a lie? Number, it couldn't be. Nathan wasn't just my fiance, he was the man who had held me when I cried, the man who made me laugh when I was having the worst days. He had been thoughtful, caring. Hadn't he? Then why did it feel like I was staring at a stranger? I looked at him again, searching for something, some kind of warmth in his eyes, some flicker of reassurance that this was all just a misunderstanding. But there was nothing. Instead, he exhaled slowly, his lips curving into a small, practiced smile. "Emma, you're overthinking it." His voice was smooth, almost rehearsed. "This is just a formality. Everyone does this. It's just to protect both of us." I barely recognized my own voice when I spoke. Protect us or protect you? For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Annoyance. Barely noticeable, but it was there. The slight twitch of his jaw, the way his fingers stiffened around his glass. "You're being emotional," he said, leaning forward slightly. "This doesn't change anything between us. You're still the woman I want to marry." My stomach twisted. The words should have comforted me, but instead, they made me feel small, like I was some child throwing a tantrum over something I should have just accepted. But I couldn't accept this. I traced my fingers along the edges of the papers, my mind screaming at me to think, to process. But all I could focus on was the last clause. Who even put something like that in a prenup? Then, like a spark igniting in the back of my mind, I remembered something. Something his father, Charles, had once said to me at a family dinner. Relationships should always be mutually beneficial. Otherwise, what's the point? I had brushed it off then, thinking it was just one of those rich businessman perspectives that I would never understand. Now I saw it for what it really was. This wasn't about love. This was about control. I swallowed hard, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What happens if I don't sign it?" I finally asked. Nathan sighed, as if the conversation was exhausting him. "Emma, don't make this difficult." That wasn't an answer. That was a warning. I placed the papers down slowly, pressing my hands against the cool wood of the table, trying to steady myself. Every part of me wanted to cry, to scream, to demand why he was doing this. But I didn't. Instead, I forced a smile, masking the storm brewing inside me. "You're right," I murmured, my voice calm. "I am overthinking it." His expression softened slightly, his posture relaxing. He thought he had won. He thought I was going to sign, but he had no idea. This was only the beginning, because if Nathan and his father thought they could trap me, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. I barely slept that night. The warmth of the cabin, once comforting, now felt suffocating. The fire crackled in the corner, casting long shadows across the wooden walls, but I couldn't shake the chill crawling up my spine. Nathan lay beside me, his breathing slow and steady, completely unbothered, as if he hadn't just handed me a contract that turned our relationship into a transaction, as if he hadn't just shattered the illusion of everything I thought we had. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Was this his plan all along? Had he ever actually loved me? I replayed every moment in my head, every sweet word, every lingering touch, every whispered "forever." And suddenly, I didn't know what was real anymore. I turned onto my side, watching the rise and fall of his chest. He looked so peaceful, so normal, like the man I had spent the last 3 years with. But now, I knew better. This wasn't the man I thought I was marrying. This was a man who had been playing a role. I swallowed the lump in my throat, my fingers curling into the sheets. I needed answers. I needed to know just how deep this went. I slipped out of bed, careful not to make a sound. My heart pounded in my ears as I tiptoed across the room, my breath shallow. The floorboards creaked beneath my weight and I froze. Nathan stirred slightly but didn't wake. I let out a shaky breath and continued, making my way to his bag, the sleek black leather one he always carried, the one that held his laptop. I hesitated for only a second before unzipping it. My hands trembled as I pulled out the device and opened it, my fingers moving fast. I knew his password, of course I did. 3 years together, and he had trusted me with so much. Or maybe he had just never thought I'd go looking. The screen illuminated my face, and I winced at the brightness. I swallowed hard and clicked into his email. The moment I saw the name, my stomach twisted. Charles Kingston. I clicked on the most recent email thread, my pulse thundering in my ears. Make sure she signs before the wedding date. We don't need another incident like last time. My breath caught in my throat. Last time? I scrolled further, my hands clammy, my heart racing. Another email. The prenup is airtight. If she walks away, she'll owe enough to bury her financially. She won't have a choice. I slapped a hand over my mouth, my body shaking. I knew Charles never liked me. I knew he didn't think I was worthy of their family name. But this? This was calculated, cruel. I kept reading, my eyes scanning the messages like my life depended on it. And then I saw a name that sent an icy chill down my spine. Julia Monroe. I clicked on it, my breath hitching. The situation with Julia was messy. We should have handled it sooner. You need to make sure Emma is compliant, Nathan. We can't afford another PR nightmare. Julia. Nathan's ex-fiance, the woman he never spoke about, the one who left suddenly without a trace. And now I knew why. Nathan didn't love me. He had never loved Julia either. We were just pawns in whatever twisted game his family was playing. I snapped the laptop shut, my hands shaking. My whole body felt numb, but my mind was screaming. I had to get out. I had to leave before I became the next Julia. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling so violently that I almost knocked it off the table. My stomach twisted, my heartbeat hammering against my ribs. I felt sick. The room suddenly felt too small, the air thick and suffocating. The glow of the fireplace flickered against the dark wooden walls, but instead of warmth, all I felt was an unbearable, bone-deep cold. Julia Monroe. The name echoed in my head over and over. The ex-fiancé Nathan never spoke about. The woman who disappeared without a word, and now I knew why. They did this to her, and now they were doing it to me. My pulse roared in my ears as I took a step back, forcing myself to think. I needed to get out. I needed to leave before Nathan woke up, before I ended up just like Julia, erased, destroyed, trapped. But I had to be smart. I couldn't just run. Not yet. Swallowing down the panic rising in my throat, I tiptoed back toward the bed, slipping the laptop carefully into Nathan's bag as if nothing had happened. I climbed under the covers, my body stiff, my breathing shallow. Nathan stirred beside me. I froze. His arm moved slightly, and for a terrifying moment, I thought he was awake, that he would turn to me, see the fear on my face, and know what I had done. But then he let out a slow, steady breath and rolled onto his side, asleep, oblivious. I exhaled shakily, forcing myself to do the same. I had to keep my cool. I lay there for what felt like hours, staring at the ceiling, every nerve in my body screaming at me to run. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed a plan. I needed proof. I needed to know exactly what had happened to Julia, and I knew exactly where to start. The moment the sun began to rise, I made my move. I slipped out of bed carefully, my heart pounding in my chest. Nathan was still asleep, his face relaxed, peaceful. I stared at him for a moment, my mind reeling. How long has he been lying to me? I clenched my jaw and turned away, quickly grabbing my phone and stepping into the bathroom, locking the door behind me. My hands shook as I pulled up a search bar and typed in the name. Julia Monroe. My fingers hovered over the screen as I hesitated, my breath shallow. Then I pressed enter. The results loaded and my stomach dropped. There she was, a beautiful woman with dark curls and bright green eyes. She looked happy in the pictures, so happy, just like I had been. But as I scrolled further, That happiness vanished. Missing person report. Julia Monroe. My throat went dry. I clicked on the link, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. She had been engaged to Nathan. The wedding was called off suddenly, and then weeks later, she vanished. Her family searched for her, filed reports, begged for answers, but nothing ever came. She was just gone. A sharp knock at the door made me jump. "Emma?" Nathan's voice was groggy from sleep. "You okay?" I slapped a hand over my mouth to keep from gasping. My heart slammed against my ribs. This was it. I was next, and I had no doubt in my mind. If I didn't act fast, I would disappear too. I stared at my phone, the screen blurring as my vision swam with panic. Julia Monroe, missing, never found. Every hair on my body stood on end. A cold sweat broke out along my spine, and my breathing turned shallow. A sharp knock on the bathroom door jolted me upright. "Emma?" Nathan's voice was groggy, tinged with confusion. "Are you okay?" I squeezed my eyes shut, willing my hands to stop shaking. He couldn't know. Not yet. If he suspected anything, I might not make it out of here. I forced a steady breath and cleared my throat. "Yeah, just not feeling great." Silence. A heavy, loaded silence. Then, "Want me to make you some tea?" My stomach twisted. The tenderness in his voice, the same voice that had once made me feel so safe, felt like poison now, a carefully rehearsed act. I swallowed hard. "No, I'll be fine. Just give me a second." Footsteps retreated. I let out a shaky breath, gripping the edge of the sink. I had to get out, but I needed to be smart. Nathan wasn't just some impulsive man throwing a tantrum over a prenup. This was calculated, deliberate, planned. And if Julia had been his first victim, I wasn't going to be his second. I quickly locked my phone and tucked it into my hoodie pocket. I glanced at myself in the mirror, wide eyes, pale face, fear written across every inch of my expression. I had to pull myself together. I splashed cold water onto my cheeks, shaking off the numbness creeping into my bones. I needed clarity, a way out, a plan. By the time I stepped out of the bathroom, I had forced my face into a neutral mask. Nathan was standing by the kitchen counter, stirring his coffee like nothing had happened, like he wasn't part of something sinister. He glanced up at me, his blue eyes scanning my face. "Feeling better?" I nodded, moving to grab my own cup. "Yeah, probably just the altitude." He smirked. "Told you we should have gone somewhere tropical instead." My skin crawled at the thought of anywhere more isolated. I forced a laugh, taking a sip of coffee, even though my stomach twisted at the thought of swallowing anything he gave me. I had to pretend. Because now, I wasn't just playing along. I was gathering information. Nathan's phone was face down on the counter. His laptop was still in his bag. I needed more proof, something I could use to expose him before he could do to me what he did to Julia. The day dragged on with painful normalcy. Nathan acted like nothing had changed, flashing me smiles, brushing his hand against mine, talking about wedding details like everything was fine, but it wasn't. Every second that passed, my chest ached with the weight of everything I knew. Julia was gone. And if I made the wrong move, I would be next. As night fell, Nathan pulled out a bottle of wine, pouring me a glass, like he always did. But this time, I didn't drink it. I held it, swirled it, pretended to sip, but I never let it pass my lips. I didn't trust him anymore. As we sat by the fire, I glanced at my phone, typing a single message under the table. "Meet me. Urgent." I hit send, because I knew one thing for sure. By tomorrow, I wouldn't be here. The night felt endless. Every tick of the clock on the wall was a countdown to my escape. I sat on the couch, my fingers curled tightly around my phone, waiting for a response to my message. The dim glow of the fireplace cast flickering shadows across the room, and each one made my skin prickle. Every movement Nathan made put me on edge. I could feel his eyes on me, watching, studying. "You're quiet tonight," he said, sipping his wine. His voice was smooth, easy, like he was trying to lull me back into comfort. I forced a small smile, keeping my expression neutral. "Just tired." He leaned back, stretching an arm over the back of the couch. "Maybe we should stay an extra night. Relax a little before everything gets hectic with the wedding." My stomach twisted. I couldn't stay another night. I couldn't risk whatever had happened to Julia happening to me. I took a slow breath and nodded, pretending to consider it. Maybe. He smiled, satisfied. I glanced down at my phone, my heart pounding as I saw a message finally appear. "Midnight, meet me at the back trail. I'll be waiting." Relief surged through me so fast I nearly gasped. I clenched my fist to stop my hands from shaking. I had a way out. Now, I just needed to make sure Nathan didn't suspect a thing. The hours crawled by painfully slow. I pretended to be exhausted, stretching my arms and forcing a yawn. "I think I'm going to head to bed early," Nathan smirked. "No wine to help you sleep?" I shook my head. "Too much today already." He chuckled. "All right. Sweet dreams, babe." The word babe made my stomach churn. I forced myself to lean down and kiss his cheek, just like I always did. My lips barely grazed his skin before I turned, walking toward the bedroom, counting every step. Inside, I waited. I lay stiffly under the blankets, staring at the ceiling, listening for Nathan to finish his wine, listening for his footsteps, waiting for the moment he finally went to bed. 30 minutes passed, then an hour, then finally, silence. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could, my pulse thundering in my ears. I grabbed my phone, my coat, and my small bag, making sure I left nothing suspicious behind. If Nathan woke up and saw my things gone, he'd know I had run. I needed every second I could get. I tiptoed to the door, easing it open inch by inch. The cabin was dark. The only sound was the occasional crackle of the dying fire. I held my breath. 1 step, 2 steps. I made it past the living room, creeping toward the back door. And then a floorboard creaked. My blood turned to ice. I froze, gripping the doorknob so hard my knuckles ached. My breath hitched in my throat. I listened. Silence. My heart pounded. Did he hear that? For a moment, I thought I saw movement from the corner of my eye, a shadow shifting slightly in the darkness, but nothing happened. I didn't wait to find out. I twisted the knob and slipped outside, the icy air shocking my skin. My breath came in short, shaky gasps as I hurried down the back trail, my boots crunching lightly against the frozen ground. The path was barely lit, only the moon and distant cabin lights illuminating the way. I clutched my phone, scanning the shadows. Then, up ahead, I saw him, a figure waiting. I ran, and I didn't look back. Have you ever ignored a red flag in a relationship only to regret it later? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story.